So let's get right into it. Geoff, what's your favorite tight end play this week?
Well, let's go big, Jesse, or let's go really, really cheap. Dan Arnold at 2,600 of the Carolina Panthers. By all accounts, this dude has won the starting, pass catching receiving role. Ian Thomas never really flashed anything much over in Carolina. And I like Dan Arnold. He is a converted wide receiver. He's a guy who showed up in the red zone a lot of times for Arizona last year and at times in New Orleans as well. This guy does have the talent. And you look at who he's connected with, Sam Darnold. Darnold really just has never had the arm to go to the outside much. He is a guy who I could see relying on Dan Arnold. Look, this is also a matchup play. It's the Jets. They were terrible against covering tight ends last season. I think this is a good play at 2,600. If you get an Arnold touchdown, you're absolutely in the cash here. And even if you just get 5 targets, that might be enough too. It's all about the price here, Jesse. He's $100 above the min. Going cheap, go with Arnold.
Going with the Darnold stack. All right, Jules, where are you going?
Yeah, tight end was pretty gross last season, and if you need any proof that we didn't upgrade much, we just started off by going with Dan Arnold as our tight end to start the segment. So, it hasn't improved. Everybody would love to play Travis Kelce. Most of us probably won't get there, although we just talked about expensive receivers. I think maybe pivoting off to a guy like Kelce and just playing more cheap receivers, not the worst idea in the world. Honestly, I'll probably just eat the chalk here with Kyle Pitts. I think it is so bad that I'll take high ownership here in a guy in an offense with like I think it was Geoff said, he's not going to just take Julio Jones's role in this offense. But Julio is gone, and Ridley will attract, some attention now as the lone wide receiver one. There's no 1A, 1B anymore. So I just think it's so bad that rather than go down and look for one of those guys that might break through, and it's great if you hit on a guy like Dan Arnold, I'll eat chalk here with Kyle Pitts, play it safe at 4,400. He's just way too underpriced for the beast that he is, the number 4 overall pick, and be different in other places.
All right, Pearce, where are we going? Favorite tight end play this week?
It's Kyle Pitts, and Julian and Geoff have alluded to the process this weekend. It's the 3 Ps. You can pay up, you can punt, or it's Pitts. And punting is ugly, and if you pay up, then you're going to hinder yourself at other positions. It's going to be tough to get a receiver or a running back. And so Pitts fits in really nicely. And this could be, groupthink on all the DFS podcasts of talking him up for 2 months, the top draft pick. The position's pretty good. He's facing a Philadelphia team that allowed it ranks 22nd against tight ends, 26th in DVOA last season. Everything could go wrong. It's tight end, but he's just too cheap. You eat the chalk and you go along with it.
All right, Jules, how about your favorite DST play this week? Where are you going to go here?
Yeah, you never want to pay too much for a defense on the road in week 1, but I'm kind of going to be in that range. I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos here at the New York Giants. The Giants in preseason, that offensive line, I know it's preseason, that offensive line still is not good. It doesn't get fixed. And the Broncos defense had a bit of a down year. Huge piece, obviously missing in Von Miller that comes back. You have Chubb. I just think that front 7 for Denver is going to have no issue teeing off on a quarterback like Daniel Jones with that offensive line in front of him. And we've seen Danny Dimes make plenty of mistakes in his young career. I think we get more of those on top of some sacks. Maybe we even get a touchdown. I'm paying a little bit too much for a road defense, but looking at the rest of the board, I'll gladly do so.
All right, Pearce, what do we think? Favorite DST play this week?
The Buffalo Bills are supposed to win this game relatively easily, and we saw the Steelers struggle against good teams last season, and the Steelers will also be on the road. Steelers have a new offensive system that they're going to bring out. Their offensive line still has plenty of issues. Harris, he's a talked-up rookie running back, but he still is just a rookie running back. A lot of question marks on that side of the ball. The Bills are pretty affordable. I think they're going to be one of the more popular defenses on the weekend.
All right, Geoff, what's your favorite DST play in week 1?
I mean, look, if you can get up to the Broncos, absolutely. I think that's the pay-up spot. I don't think Seattle's bad in that spot either, but the Broncos are definitely the team I'd rather pay up for. I like going cheap. I'm like Pearce. I don't think the Bills are a bad call, but I'm even going a little bit cheaper with the Jets. And I know it's a road team, but again, you get 2 bad teams here, and these turnovers just tend to happen. And you look at what we're going up against, it's Sam Darnold. I mean, there's just no threat here of like him dropping 30 points on this Jets defense. The Jets are healthy. They don't have good corners. We know that. But again, are they really going up against the cornerback who can take advantage? I don't think they are. They've got C.J. Mosley back. They've got a good pass rush. If Kenny was here, we'd probably talk for 5 more minutes about it. But I do think with Robert Saleh there in week 1, this is a good matchup. And at 2,400, they're a little bit too cheap. Again, these sloppy games, they can tend to sometimes bring out really good DST performances. So I know it's a little bit of double speak. I do like Dan Arnold on the other side, but you can come back with a really cheap DST in the Jets too.
Kenny has entered the chat. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Take us home with your favorite overall week 1 play, aka slate approved. Pearce, where are you going?
Kyler Murray, when he was healthy last season, he was an absolute monster. You just can't pass up on the rushing yard floor that he gives you and the touchdowns. He gets plenty of action rushing inside the red zone. He's facing a Tennessee defense that was near the worst in football last season. And even if they improved, I mean, I know they tried to make some improvements, but what's the best case scenario? They went from 30th DVOA to 20th. I'll take Kyler Murray versus the 20th DVOA. Let's imagine their average. I'll take Kyler Murray against an average defense. The reality is they probably haven't improved that much at all, and you're going to get air yards, you're going to get touchdowns through the air and on the ground with Kyler Murray.
Jeff, slate approved pick. What is your favorite overall week 1 play?
No, I just about went with Kyler Murray, too. It's going to be a fast-paced game between 2 good offenses. But I'm going to go with the guy who's got profiles similar, and he's $1,200 cheaper. And Jalen Hurts, another fast-paced game, 2 top teams, top 10 in terms of pace of play. Jalen Hurts, in his last 3 games last season, where he started and finished and didn't get pulled for some guy named Nathan, he averaged over 29 DraftKings fantasy points. This guy was an absolute beast in terms of rushing the ball as well. Will he make a few turnovers? Maybe, but I really feel like this guy is getting undervalued again, and I'm not sure why people aren't excited for him. Again, he's $1,200 cheaper than Kyler, so love the matchup, love the player, and he's my favorite play at quarterback for sure, and just really overall at 6,400.
Jules, week 1, slate approved pick.
I like both those plays. Murray, like I said off the top, maybe a little too expensive for me, but we don't need all this money. Sam Darnold is going to score 30 DraftKings points against the New York Jets at home in week 1, Jeff. So I'm going to make him my slate-approved pick, and we're going to use that extra money that we save to just stack him with another Jet, Robbie Anderson, who had double-digit DraftKings points the first 7 games of last season. He started off really strong, 3 of those over 20. This Jets secondary is atrocious, and I think these 2 former Jets are going to carve it up.
All right, Jeff, before you go, any last-minute advice you have for someone jumping into NFL DFS action in week 1?
Yeah, week 1 tends to be a little bit different than the rest of the weeks. We don't have as much information. We're kind of a little bit in the dark in terms of how the usage is going to go, how the teams are actually going to deploy their offenses. So if you do have, if you've been studying a team a little bit, or if you're just on a stack, say, that isn't getting talked up as much, or maybe just doesn't project as well as you thought it would be, I would say go with it, because week 1, we're all a little bit in the dark, and it tends to be one of the more sort of variance-filled weeks of the season. So I don't want to say go with your gut, but again, if you do a little bit of research and you feel like a team or a stack is maybe getting undervalued or overlooked, this is the week to do it, because again, we just don't have as much information as we will say in a couple weeks.
Jules, anything to add?
Yeah, it's pretty well said by Jeff. Honestly, we think we know these things, and then it goes differently, and it's because we just haven't seen enough yet to put anything on a page. So I think my favorite piece of what Jeff said is if you are trying to kind of talk yourself into something, and you're like, this, it doesn't rate as well in certain models or doesn't project as high. If you like it, go with it, because a lot of these projections aren't going to be on point for week 1. So whatever you think is going to happen, use that rather than what everybody else is telling you is supposed to happen.
Pearce, anything to add?
Yeah, let me add on. And don't play bad players. With all the value and all the talk that we do, we've talked up a lot of people that really aren't that good. Maybe Sam Darnold falls into that category. But I'll pick on Jameis Winston here.
You guys watch.
Jameis Winston is a perfect example of a bad player that's going to get talked up over the next couple days, and he's going to get played. He doesn't have any receivers. He's never been good. It's okay for a quarterback to be good in college and struggle in the NFL. We can write him off. Now, maybe Kevin King is going to have a terrible game and make Winston look good, but there's plenty of options. You really don't have to reach just because that value play looks shiny and fancy. Just stick to guys that have a track record.